Hello, Indy Reformed. This is the video for week 5, day 4. Today we're looking at the Davidic covenant, the covenant made with King David in 2 Samuel chapter 7. So at this stage in redemptive history, we've jumped quite a bit. We jumped from Abraham to Moses over 400 years, and we've jumped even farther from Moses to David. We're now kind of in the middle of the history of the people of God in the Old Testament. And we see that at this stage in redemptive history, King David has led his people Israel into prosperity and peace. Things are going well for them. They're in the land. They've driven out their enemies. They've had success everywhere they go. They're doing well economically. All these blessings are falling upon them. And David at this point in time lives in a palace of cedar wood. And he knows that the Ark of the Covenant, the place where God has promised to dwell specially with his people in their midst, is still in a tent, still in a tabernacle, and this bothers him, that he's in a permanent dwelling and the Ark of God is in a tent. And so he decides, really without asking, that he's going to build a house for God. He's going to build a permanent dwelling for God. And we see that after a little bit, we read this in 2 Samuel 7 as God sends his prophet Nathan to David. And Nathan says this, "When your days are fulfilled and you lie down with your fathers, I will raise up your offspring after you, who shall come from your body, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. And when he commits iniquity, I will discipline him with the rod of men, with the stripes of the sons of men, but my steadfast love will not depart from him as I took it from Saul, whom I put away from before you. And your house and your kingdom shall be made sure before me. Your throne shall be established forever." So David wanted to build a stone house for God, and God says, "No, you're not the one to do this. Instead of you building me a house, I'm going to build you a house, not a house of stone, but a dynasty, a lineage, descendants on the throne. And your son, David, Solomon, will be the one who builds the house for me. And I will make this covenant that your descendants will sit on the throne of my people." But we keep reading in this promise, and we realize that this does not end with Solomon. This is the promise of an eternal kingship, an eternal kingdom, an eternal throne, an eternal rule from the house, from the line of David. So up to this point in redemptive history, there's been a problem for the people of God. Moses dies, and after him Joshua dies, and after that, the people of God are somewhat leaderless. They need someone to be like Moses or Joshua and to lead them into righteousness, and they go hundreds of years without anyone like that. And then David comes, and we think, well, maybe he's the one we've been waiting for, and then we keep reading. We realize that he is not the one who was promised. And his son Solomon comes, and there's even greater glory with Solomon, but we see that he sins in many of the same ways as his father David. And after Solomon, the kings generally get worse and worse and worse, with some high spots in between. Ultimately, though, we see Christ often by what is there in the Old Testament. We also see him by what is missing. And what is missing throughout the rest of the Old Testament is this eternal kingdom, coming from the line of David, this king who will lead Israel, the people of God, into righteousness until we come to the New Testament, until we come to Christ. And so as we think about this, have you ever wondered why the beginning of Matthew's gospel has a genealogy? Well, it tells us right there at the beginning. The first words are, "The book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham." It's making a connection there. It's indicating to us that here is someone coming from the royal line of David, who is descended also from Abraham, that he is the fulfillment of these covenants. He is a fulfillment of these promises made with Abraham and David. So this is the Davidic covenant, and we'll see it really come into full force along with the Abrahamic covenant tomorrow in the New Covenant.